Okay, at this point we're going to try a little experiment with the open systems model perspective and recognize again that the open systems model is a model that continuously interacts with its environment, taking in items, processing those items, and producing some kind of outcome. And it's basically a great model for describing how living things like organizations or organic life sustain life over a period of time. It can also be applied to a whole variety of other types of disciplines to help describe and offer better understanding of how those disciplines operate. Things like physics, healthcare, organizational theory, leadership development, thermodynamics. These are all models that one can use to apply the concepts of the open system model. Now, in this case, we're going to practice mapping and recommend to you to use the same technique with your staff, and we'll give you an exercise at the end. If we were looking at just the individual patient as a process of moving into the system, through the system, and then coming back out of the system, the inputs that we would be looking at here might relate to things like the medical staff, uh, the patients, those are all inputs, ancillary staff, and the organization, other kinds of resources, laboratory materials, etc. The conversion process for the individual patient is mostly oriented around the diagnostic model. It includes testing, equipment, and how it's used to apply the diagnostic tools, supplies, and the list could go on. And in terms of outcome for the individual patient, we're basically dealing with what we will refer to as a treatment plan. Might require prescription medication. It may require some activities that help try to prevent the problem from reoccurring, and also hopefully at the end we end up with a better level of health status. Now, if we now apply the same concepts of the open system model to the QI process, we'll use a different color here. Let's use red. We're now going to take a look at how that fits to QI. In terms of structure, this is really asking the question about how we are using our resources in terms of the allocation of those resources to a stream of patients over time and the responsiveness of the system accordingly. Are we really getting the best bang for the buck? The second one is, how are those resources applied? Is it cost effective in terms of time and the amount of resources? Are we avoiding waste? Are we applying proper and attentive tools of good risk management to avoid injury or additional harm? And are we using something that we might call a patient care protocol? In other words, a clinical practice profile or plan. And then in terms of outcome, we can look at it in terms of overall population health. Did we measurably change the clinical outcomes in a collective fashion? And are we meeting expectations? Now, having done this, we can actually go back and say that at the very beginning, in terms of the QI process, we're actually starting with something we will refer to as the QI plan, which will set goals, um, target um, levels of quality that we're trying to establish, and a variety of other things, including the kinds of tools that we will use to actually measure uh, our progress over time. And all of those will be, that plan will affect inputs, it will affect conversion process, and it also has an impact on outcomes. And the idea behind having a plan is when you do have each of these, the intent is to gather data as a feedback mechanism in each case to tell us, are we meeting the expectations of the QI plan that we're working with. I hope this is helpful. The exercise for you and your team is to sit down and brainstorm collectively a list of items that you want to focus on for your particular clinical practice in terms of inputs, conversion process, and outcomes. And if you have questions, you can refer back to the material. Hopefully that'll help you along this particular exercise. Good luck, and we'll look for you for the next session.